All right. Well, then let's call the meeting to order. We have board members Brian Otley, Laura Sibilia, and Dan Nelson present. That meets the requirements for a quorum. We'll get to, it looks like we have a short agenda here, so we'll get to approval of the agenda. Are there any changes that we need to make?
Yeah, we'd like to request after the Southern Vermont grant discussion executive session to present to the board the status of the middle mile application. And it needs to be confidential because we're working with quite a few telecom partners and we want to reveal some.
Okay, so after item 3, we would do an executive session for middle mile update. Okay. All right, so motion to approve the minutes, the agenda as updated. I think we need to.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? I guess that leaves me. Aye.
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 Okay, so that's all of us. Next item is meeting minutes of August 22nd. We have a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Laura? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so meeting minutes for the 22nd have been approved. Christine, the next item is the construction grant application for Southern Vermont CUD. Would you like to set this one up, please?
Sure. The staff has been pretty consistent with this recommendation to the court to approve this application because of the significantly reduced costs of serving those through working with the partnership. The board's concern, of course, was there enough teeth in the agreement in order to hold Consolidated's feet to the fire in terms of quality issues, and we've been informed of their negotiation. We've been part of the negotiation, and I'd like Eric Hatch to take it from here and talk about the work they've done with Consolidated. Eric and Eric are both the Erics.
Great. Thanks, Christine. And thank you to the board for having us back. We're hoping the third time is the charm tonight. We have come back after a week or so of looking at, we've looked at the different things that we can include in our contract and have come up with an addendum we're calling it Schedule C, which is what it would be of the contract. And in that contract, in that schedule, we have added specific metrics around performance and remediation period and essentially consequences of failure to meet those standards. And if good with the board, I'll walk through those items now.
Yes, please, Eric.
Great. Okay. And definitely Eric Garr is here with others from Consolidated, and please, Eric, jump in where you can enrich what I'm saying about the contract and add any additional color that might be lacking. Okay, so the first one is the Net Promoter Survey. It's an annual survey that is done by Consolidated. So within this one, what we have included is the requirement that the Net Promoter Survey has to be for 2 years in a row higher than the average for the other Vermont ISPs who may be doing an annual relational Net Promoter Survey themselves. So we are taking our CUD and holding it out against the rest of Vermont and saying it cannot be lower. And if it is, it has to be remediated within 2 years, 6 months after that second poor survey result. If that result isn't remediated, then it would invoke the default process under the existing network operation contract, Schedule B. So the promoter survey is annual, but we will be seeing the net promoter scores, which are quarterly. Those are done after every interaction with Consolidated. So we feel we are going to have a very current, relevant snapshot of what the customers our addresses and consumers are thinking about their service when they are asked these questions. Anything else, Eric, to add into that?
Yeah,
Well,
Eric Hatch, just maybe you could share your screen too with the
Oh, sorry.
document.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Eric.
I know we have an oversupply of Erics. I would just add current performance is several times the industry average that we see. And actually Vermont's performance is a little bit higher than what we see in other states. So it's a good metric and we feel like we're doing a good job to date, and we'll share that data in grave detail with the CUD.
Yeah, Eric, maybe you could talk a little bit about the company that does that, because I'm not sure my board's familiar with it.
Yeah, we use a firm called Medallia. There are several companies that calculate NPS, and they really do two things for us. The first is we baked their software into every one of our interactions. So every time you call us, every time we send someone to your house, we ask for feedback. That real-time feedback gives us a net promoter score that is kind of a daily or a weekly that we report every quarter. That moves around a lot. You know, if there's an outage, they go down, and that motivates us to get ourselves at work to make sure we improve. And then every year we'll do an annual survey where we'll take the current customer base and survey them. But it's the same basic tool. It's a metric that's used in many consumer businesses. If you Google it, there's tons of stuff about it. But that's the performance metrics we use. In terms of industry performance, our industry does not have a great track record. Our scores are often either slightly negative or slightly positive. So it's not uncommon to see scores from providers in the 5, 10, 15 range. Right now, Fidium's performing at about 53. So we're several times above the industry average. And in Vermont, it's even a little higher. I think last month it was like 60.
Frank, are you
Okay.
able to share your screen or having some trouble?
There we go. I think I got it now. Sorry. It's a little different than Zoom. You can see it now, Rob?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so that was number one of Schedule C. Number two is system performance testing. So the way Consolidated currently does their testing, they look at it 7 days, consecutive days where they're looking at peak times, which are defined as 6 p.m. to midnight, and they make sure that 80% of their tests achieve at least 80% of the offered speed, and the latency, ensuring that it's below 100 seconds. So I can have Eric kind of give more color around that, but the heart of the accountability is that we get those test results, so we see those at least quarterly, and then if there is a failed test, then they have 60 days to remediate that, or again, we get to could invoke the default severability clause.
And these are the testing standards for the RDOF program. And if you remember in our proposal, we're asking for state funding for a little more than half the unserved addresses in the CUD. The balance are being funded through our capital and also through the RDOF program. So we're going to already do this testing on 1,200 of the addresses in the CUD. So we thought, let's just make one big test. We'll add the state-funded addresses to it, and that gives us a way to consistently see network performance.
Yeah, and if you look at this spec, it ties in. Our outside plant requirements talk about achieving latency under 100 milliseconds for 95% of the time, but that's measured on a 24-hour period. So this is a 6-hour period. So essentially, it meets the same specification. They're focusing on peak times, which is
yeah, 6 to 12 is when everybody's on the network.
Yeah.
So
Great. Okay, number 3 is the customer service credits. So this is something that Consolidated does today. One thing that we want to highlight, though, is that it does include weather events. So if people, a town or a segment of the network goes down from an ice storm or snowstorm, whatever the case might be, they can request that that time be removed from their bill, and it is something that the Fidium product does today. And then this will be made available on the FAQ section, which is what folks tend to look at rather than the going back to the original contract where it is included between Consolidated and the consumer. So this is, I think, something worth highlighting because those are most of the reasons why someone would not have surface Fidium or like any fiber product. All right. Not anything really new around affordability. We just added it to section C, Schedule C, so that it was all in one place because it is consumer protection focused. Net neutrality also we just brought it in here. It does follow Vermont's net neutrality standards, which are more stringent than the federal. And also on security breach notification, it's following Vermont's scheduled security breach notification.
Looks like Eric froze. Maybe Eric K wants to pick up and keep going.
I was going to offer to do that. I'm happy to kind of continue through this while other Eric comes back on. Although I can't scroll his screen down. So I can
temporarily remove him from the meeting. It should remove his screen. But
The next section is downtime notification.
yeah, here, I wonder if I present over it, if that'll help. But anyway, I'll just kind of keep going here. So downtime notification. We will offer a email notification within 12 hours. This is something we know we've got work to do on, but we're getting better, and we expect to continue to do that with this. And we've set up an email at the CUD, and we're in the process of improving some of our systems to do this in a more automated fashion. Any questions on that before I roll into public meetings? All right, I'll just keep kind of rolling. Public meetings. This has been, this one's funny to me, and I'll make this promise. If any customer wants to meet with us, we will meet with them. And so I think in this case, what we've said is we're happy to come to one public meeting per calendar year. If a CUD town select board wants us to come, we will attend. As long as I'm here, we will be in the business of meeting with customers who want to talk to us. So that's just something that we're happy to commit to. Eric Hatch is back. Eric, I got down to public meetings.
Eric, could I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Laura has a question.
Sure.
Yeah, just noting, Eric, the length of that commitment was as long as you're here. Can you tell us how long you'll be with Consolidated and for the
I
end of
have no
Vermont?
plans on going anywhere. I love the job, I love the challenge, and I love Vermont. So
And so should we take you literally that that will only last for as long as you're here?
I think you should take it as it was intended. It's just a commitment of a company with a new culture. And that I expect was sustained long after I'm gone as well. But again, I'm young, I'm healthy, I have no plans to go anywhere else, and my family loves it here, so I am properly incented.
Thanks, Dan. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Eric?
You're on mute there, Eric Hatch.
Sorry about that. All right. So number 9, current and future requirements. I think this is another one to highlight because it does say and commit to, of course, adhering to what is currently required in Act 71 and the additional guidance, but other items that are going to potentially be added to Act 71 for the VCBB program to follow that as well. So it's certainly we, the CUD, feel that this is a very good faith effort to say if there are other items that come down that's deemed requirements for the CUDs across the state, that there's not going to be an issue with ours to implement those. Number 10 is final payment. This incorporates what is in the grant agreement itself. And we've added, though, that if after the 6 months after the final payment is due, we have a period of 6 months to ensure that we both agree, Consolidated and the CUD agree that the construction grant has been fulfilled and obligations on both sides are complete to the satisfaction. And if not, then if we don't feel, the CUD doesn't feel that that is the case, we have 6 months to hold that. And then after that 6 months, if we still do not feel that, we do have to pay the 8% that was withheld, but we would invoke the severability clause, and there would be 60 days to remediate what we felt was in default. And lastly, we included in here the continuity requirement, where it states explicitly that if there is a sale of Consolidated to another entity, that these obligations transfer and stay the same to ensure that the CUD doesn't lose out any rights or privileges in that new entity, however it's formed. All right, so those are the items that we've gone back and updated. We're getting calls and emails often via the VCBB and Public Utility Commission about folks looking for and hoping that they were in phase 1. So we are actively telling them that they are phase 2A, and that will be next year. And we really hope that these provisions are satisfactory to the board, and that we can go back to our constituents and tell them that the funding is secured, and we're well on our way to solving the problem we're all put here to solve, which is not having access to internet at all. So with that, that's the end of my my update for Schedule C.
Thank you, Eric. Brian has his hand up. Laura, you also have your hand up. Is that from before, or is it follow up?
It is from before. I'm happy to have, I do have questions. I'm happy to have Ryan go.
Okay, Brian.
Yeah, just real quick, Eric, just remind me the severability clause. So if you enact that under any of these conditions, what happens?
So in reality, in practice, what would happen is we would go to another telco, another ISP, and say we have these 1,200 addresses that we would like to have join their network. And we would enter into an agreement with Consolidated for them to basically serve as our backbone to connect those disparate houses on phase 2A to this other network somewhere else in the surrounding state or states.
Okay.
And all of those negotiations are via a third party to ensure that we're getting a good market rate.
Yep. And and also remind me from an equipment standpoint, right? What the CUD would own is the fibers in the sheath, but
yes,
none of the electronics and none of the drops that Consolidated would have put into that point. Is that correct?
that's correct. The you know, those drops may or may not be compatible with the new service provider.
Yep.
So they may have to put in their own kit for that. But as it stands now, no, it's just the fiber that we would have.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Laura?
I have several questions, but let me pick up off of where Brian was. So Southern Vermont CUD has several fibers in Consolidated's cable, their fiber strands,
Yep.
and Consolidated's fiber, which go to Consolidated's connections to the customers. And so in the event that divorce happens, what prevents Consolidated from going right back to those customers if the CUD finds that things are not satisfactory?
Well,
Why do those customers, what pulls those customers to a different place?
Well,
What is the
presumably,
leverage that
if we're
CUD has?
divorced, yeah, presumably if we're divorcing, it's because the customers are not happy. It's not that the CUD isn't happy, it's the customers aren't happy and they would want to have another provider. But if they are happy with Consolidated, there is no reason why they wouldn't stay there.
I would just add, Eric, this gets a little muddy when you look at the design closely. I would say the majority of the routes, we won't have a fiber out to those homes. So there are some cases where the state or the CUD will own fibers in our sheath, but there's other cases where the run out to the more rural areas is, all the CUD. So if something were to happen and someone wanted to do that, they would have to pay a capital cost to get that asset, to get to those customers, that the CUD wouldn't because they have the asset in place.
What percentage of what we're building with $9 million is the latter rather than the former?
Yeah, I would not be able to answer that in real time. I'm happy to take that as a homework assignment.
So Christine, I have a question for Christine, or actually a question for Eric Gar. Eric, how many service quality investigations have been filed against Consolidated in the state of Vermont in the last 30 years?
I don't know in the last 30. I have data on the last 10. And if you give me a minute, I'll pull that up. 10 years ago, it was an alarming
Stop
number.
sharing your screen so everybody can see each other again, please.
1 second. Hang on a second. So the last time I looked at the data, I looked back to 2010. And in 2010, we had 1,400 service quality complaints. In those days, those are all copper, and that's the vast majority of these. In 2020, we had about 600. In 2021, we had about 400. And I think year to date, we're a little over 200.
So Eric, actually, my question was about service quality investigations that the state opened up against the company.
Sorry, so I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
And I can phone a friend here in a minute and get you an answer, but I don't precisely know the answer to that.
That would be great if you could give the precise answer. I know it's been at least one.
Yep.
And I believe it's more than that. So my next question is for Christine. Christine, how many other CUDs have we awarded funds to who are partnering with a provider who's had a service quality investigation opened up against them by the state of Vermont?
I don't know the answer to that either.
I believe the
I
answer
don't know. I did reach out to Cappy on,
Yeah.
you know, the standard protocol for us is we reach out to Cappy and we ask them, you know, what they to give us feedback in terms of the quality. And what they've said is this is related directly to copper to copper. They had 570 something complaints in 2018, down to 170 last year. They had only 2 escalations related to, you know, the to the Pownell, you know, only being fed from one direction, the E911 stuff. But they said they saw significant improvement 2018 to 2021.
So
And can I just add, Laura, that that question has come up with when we've been talking with our folks in those areas that aren't covered in phase 1. And when we explain that it's apples to oranges when you look at copper versus fiber, that it's a different animal altogether. And it's borne out by you know, what you're seeing across the country and what you're seeing with what is already rolled out with Fidium in the state and into other parts of the country for Fidium.
Yeah, that's why benchmark copper as the benchmark for looking at the quality improvements.
Great. So just to be clear, I'm very clear that there's a very big difference between copper and fiber. One of which is that one is regulated, one is not. And my concern is more about how the company has managed poor assets and their customers. And so while fiber is fantastic, you know, there's a track record here of not providing great customer service. So the reason that I'm asking these questions are for this reason. Eric Garr, what increased level of accountability is there for the Vermonters who are going to benefit from this $9 million connection that your other Vermont customers do not have?
What? I'm not sure I understand the question.
So as I've said repeatedly, this program, this board, all of these funds that are assembled here, which have a lot to do with the poor quality of the copper lines in our state and how alarming that was. Not only are we seeking universal coverage, we are seeking increased accountability. And so my question for you is, what increased accountability will there be for the Vermonters connected by this $9 million that the your other Vermont customers do not have?
Sure.
What public accountability exists here that your other Vermont customers do not have?
Sure. Let me back up and answer your question more precisely from before, and then I'll come back around to this one. I checked with my regulatory team. There have been 2 service quality investigations in the last 10 years, none since I've been here. And then to kind of move on to your question, what's the incremental protection for these customers? The performance reporting in Schedule C is not applied to all Vermonters. So those requirements are not extended to the whole CUD. The net performance, the net promoter survey, we don't share with the whole state. We will be sharing that just with you all. So that's an additional set of protection that other Vermonters would not have. The rest of these are consistent with what we would provide other Vermonters. And frankly, I think we're pretty psyched the feedback we've gotten from Vermonters on the product today. We get a lot of positive feedback. When you read the NPS feedback from customers, we have a lot of very delighted customers. We will make a boo-boo from time to time, but at this point, I'm very comfortable with the statistical performance in Vermont, that we have a lot of happy customers.
Thank you, Eric. So of the two increased accountability measures, are either of those accountability measures that are not required by the federal funder, by the RDOF program?
NPS is not required by the RDOF program, and the performance testing is.
All right, great. That's all the questions I have in this moment.
Okay. Eric, you still have your hand up. Any comments?
No, that was just to answer Laura's question from before. I forgot to turn up my hand. I'll do that.
Okay.
Dan?
Yeah.
Sorry, at the risk of interrupting you, I did have one other comment which evaporated from my head. Eric Gar, I would like to say that you might be the smartest decision that Consolidated has made in Vermont in the last decade. So I appreciate your efforts, your hard work, your intention. Nonetheless, we have quite a history before you, which is concerning and legitimately so.
Understood. And all I can do is keep my shoulder down and keep moving the company in a better direction.
Thank you. So if we don't have any more dialogue on this topic, I would entertain or make a motion.
Can the staff just restate their recommendation? The recommendation is.
Yep.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Are you prepared, Stan, or would you like me to just say it?
What is the recommendation, Christine, to repeat that?
Stan, did you prepare something?
Yeah, I vote that the board approve the grant request to Southern Vermont CUD in the amount of $9,009,085.
Laura?
Yeah, I apologize, Dan.
No,
I did
it's
actually do a really thorough review and I had some other questions and they did leave my head. So, but they're back. And
Good.
So one of the questions that I had Eric Gar, which I had shared with Eric Hatch, is around where your maintenance folks will be dispatched from. I noticed in the agreement, which seemed pretty standard, it did not seem Vermont specific. It seemed to say that your dispatch would occur in places within, I think it was 2 hours from places that were commercially viable. And so I'm wondering where the dispatch will occur from or for Bennington. And I understand for security reasons, you may not want to give that precise, but roughly how many miles away?
So we do have garage facilities across the state where resources are available. There's a garage in Brattleboro, there's a garage in Bennington, and then there's another one a little bit further north. I just phoned or pinged one of my teammates to get the precise locations, but we do have employees in the CUD and nearby.
And so Eric Gar, I think
Yep.
you will recognize why this will not come as a surprise to you, this question, I hope. So you and I are aware that we had an issue with your network in Southern Vermont earlier this summer, which caused of our hospitals to be in an emergency posture for more than 12 hours. And part of the reason, as far as I understood it, was where equipment had to be brought in from. And so that's really the nature of this question, the last question that I asked you. What can we expect in terms of repair times, maintenance times on a regular basis? Where will you be dispatching from? There's a very major, serious medical facility there. And EMS dispatch.
So let me kind of comment on that and then how it relates to Fidium. In May, we did have an outage on our copper network that was substantial. It was reported in the press, and it took us, frankly, too long to fix it. It was probably a 12-hour turnaround, and it did affect several customers, including the hospital. Since then, we've had a couple other issues with the copper network in Brattleboro that we've disclosed to you when they've happened. Those fixes have been much shorter, and we continue to migrate more and more customers off of those copper networks. The root cause of that outage the root cause of the time to repair was taking time to get very old equipment moved from White River Junction to Brattleboro. The fiber network is a completely different animal. And in all three of those cases, there was no outage on the Fidium network. The Fidium network performed fine through all of them. The electronics that we have are much more modern. We have spare parts forward positioned so that we can do swaps very quickly. In some of the copper networks, we don't have a lot of spare parts because they're hard to get. The parts we're using now in the Fidium network are all modern. It's very easy to keep parts in the right spaces. That's a little different than dispatch. That's kind of an electronics issue, but that's how I look at that. Is in all those cases, Fidium experienced no outage. And given the modern technology and the ability to have spares on site, I would expect very quick fixes if something like that were to happen on the fiber network.
That is not necessarily, as I recall, what happened with the two major hospitals that were in an emergency position for 15 hours, one of which had phone service, but I'm not going to debate that here now with you. I just wanted to give that as background for the rationale for my question.
Yeah, let me clear. I don't dispute that we were out for too long and it was harmful to the hospital. So I'm not at all suggesting we did a good job there. We did address it, and we've changed some internal processes. We have moved some equipment around, and that's an improvement that we had to make, and we have apologized for that problem, and I'm happy to do so again. So it's not lost on me, the harm, and that's another example where we need to do better.
And so, and that's the aspect that I've been looking for in this agreement, is what is the do better that we can hold you to account to. And I'm not sure that it's enough, given the past history, even with how wonderful you are, Eric, and how responsive you are. So now, Dan, I promise you, I am done.
Your hand is still up. Thank you. Okay, so at that point, we were getting a restatement of what staff's position was and recommendation.
Yeah, the recommendation, as Stan said, was the motion to support the 9 million, whatever it was, 9,009,000. What was it?
$9,009,085.
That's right. Okay, there you go.
Okay, so understanding that's the recommendation of the staff, I'll make a motion that we approve the grant request to Southern Vermont CUD in the amount of $9,009,085. Someone second that.
Before we second, I just want to, I'm going to second it, but I just want to make sure everyone sees this loud and clear. Like, exiting this agreement with CCI.
I think you need to second it. I'm sorry.
I think we second it and then do a discussion.
Second.
Okay, and then discussion.
Hand up. So I just
Brian.
want to, just loud and clear, everybody, I think we're all seeing it the same way, but if Southern Vermont needs to exit the relationship with CCI for severability reasons or default, like that's going to be a horrible situation based on the way they're constructing the partnership. And I'm not saying they shouldn't construct the partnership the way they are. I actually think it makes a lot of sense the way they're configuring it. So I'm given all of the particulars of their territory and CCI's footprint and all that, I actually think what they're configuring makes a lot of sense. But in the event they have to sever, it's going to be a disaster. So the way I think about this is that, like, they're in bed long term. This is a marriage, come hell or high water, or what do they say, in sickness and in health. And so I hope others are seeing it that way, because that's the lens through which I'm seconding Dan's motion.
Okay. Any other comments, Laura?
Yeah, I will just say again that I appreciate the work that the CUD has done here. I think they have come forward with a practical solution. I am not satisfied with the level of accountability that we have gotten Consolidated to agree to, and I feel like they have earned extra scrutiny.
Okay. Any other from the board or staff?
No
All right.
comments from staff.
Okay. Well, then we'll move to a vote. Those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed or abstain?
No.
Okay. So the motion carries. Laura says no, and Brian and Dan say yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for all your work, Southern Vermont CD and Consolidated.
Thank you for all the work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, congratulations. Please keep us posted. Item,
Yeah,
Next.
now we're moving to the executive session. I would recommend moving into executive session to discuss the middle mile program. We have, we're working with confidential partners on this. Stan, maybe you can read the official language.
Yeah, the premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or a person involved at a substantial disadvantage. Based
Okay.
on one VSA 313A1.
okay, so I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Yeah, and invite staff and Will Anderson. We have Will Anderson from the administration here as well to talk about the administration's interests, finance and management.
Okay. We have to make, I made a motion on that. Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, you've got
Laura
the,
went there.
okay. We'll see
See you
you on
there.
the other side.